Hi there, I'm Vincent Bos and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing outdated ex-back advice to avoid. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. Check out my socials for extra content. The links are in the description. So now let's get back into today's podcast. And today we are discussing outdated ex-back advice to avoid. So if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, you need to avoid old advice, which has a bad success rate. Now, does this mean that bad advice can't work? Well, no. Even bad advice can very occasionally work due to luck. Even a broken clock is right twice a day. In today's podcast, I'll be discussing 3 pieces of outdated advice that you need to avoid to give you the best chance of getting your ex back. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is 30-day no contact rule. Now, this is something that any of you who are seeking advice about how to try and increase the chance of getting your ex back, well, you are likely to have bumped into this rule, whether you're reading about it, watching somebody speak about it, listening, etc. And the reason why you have bumped into this is not because it's good advice, it's because it's old advice and it has been spoken about for a very long time. But does this mean it's going to help you? Well, most of the time, I would suggest not. So what exactly is the 30-day no contact rule for those of you who might not know the actual specifics of it? Well, it suggests that for 30 days, you don't contact your ex-dumper. And also, if you are receiving contact within that time, that 30-day period, well, you don't respond either. So during that 30 days, post-breakup, you don't reach out to your ex. And if they reach out to you, you don't respond either in any kind of way. But then, when this 30-day period has expired, you reach out to your dumper, irrespective of whether they had contacted you or not. So let's just go over that again really quickly. So for 30 days, you don't contact your ex, but if they reach out to you, you ignore them. But then after the 30 days, you do reach out to your ex, irrespective of whether or not they've reached out to you first. Now, in my opinion, this is bad advice. It's outdated advice. It's advice that's been around since the age of time, but it doesn't have a good success rate, in my opinion. From the many years that I've been doing this job and researching, I don't see a good success rate. And when you think about it logically, is that really a surprise? Is it a surprise but it doesn't have a good success rate? Well, I don't think it's a big surprise, because let's actually understand what's happening here. For 30 days, you are not reaching out to your ex. Well, not reaching out to your dumper is, generally speaking, good advice, but not just for 30 days, okay? Generally, you shouldn't be reaching out to your dumper unless they contact you first. And that doesn't mean if it's 30 days, 100 days, or 2 years, okay? If you have not received contact from your dumper, in most instances, you shouldn't be reaching out to them first. They've made a decision. They've ended a relationship. Once the dust has settled, you shouldn't be contacting your ex unless they contact you initially. Now, this isn't even the only problem with the 30-day no contact rule. Of course, we also have the concept that if your ex-dumper has reached out to you during this 30 days, apparently you're supposed to ignore them. Now, I don't see how this can help you. If your ex-dumper has reached out to you and you want to get your ex back, the best advice is to respond. Now, maybe it's for necessary contact. Maybe it's not about them actually trying to reconnect at that time, but still, you should be responding, being a good human being, just trying to calm things down potentially. If there's been a huge argument, maybe your ex-dumper feels that you've treated them badly, that's why they've ended the relationship. Maybe they then want some items of theirs which are at your house. If they reach out to you and you ignore them, is that really going to help? No, it's not. So smoothing things over if they reach out to you, even if it's not directly about trying to get back together, that can only be a good thing. Being a good person, being a good human being. But your ex-dumper might be reaching out to you to try and reconnect. Maybe the breakup in their mind was just temporary. Maybe they just wanted a breather. Okay, if they're reaching out to you and you're ignoring them, how is that going to help? And that is the problem with the 30-day no contact rule. Not only are you reaching out to them irrespective of whether they have or not after 30 days, instead of letting time tick by to the point of where they want to reach out to you because they've regrown romantic emotional attraction, you're just reaching out to them anyway. Not only is that a bad idea, but the fact that you would be ignoring them if they reach out to you first during that period, it just makes no sense at all. From my research, the average amount of time that a dumper will reach out to a dumpee is between the 6 to 12 month mark. That is well beyond the 30 days that is suggested in this outdated rule. Now, as I said at the beginning of today's podcast, does this mean you can't find success by following this rule? Well, you're always going to have that 0.1% chance. You're always going to have the possibility of luck. You're always going to have that moment where you reach out to your ex and you had no idea that they were about to reach out to you an hour later, and you've just jumped the gun by an hour and it's all worked out. So if you see success in this way, let me know in the YouTube comments. But I would suggest that you've not found success in a way where this has worked forevermore. Maybe a temporary reconnection, but I doubt you're still together today. Very, very occasionally success can be found doing anything or nothing at all. But we're talking about increasing your chance of success in a realistic way. And in my opinion, the 30-day no contact rule is outdated ex-back advice that you need to avoid. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast. Please like this video if you're watching on YouTube. And if you have the new hype feature, please hype this video as well. If you like my content, subscribe to the channel to keep updated. And point number 2 is grand gestures. Now, grand gestures are another piece of old advice about how to try and get an ex back, which I don't believe gives you a good chance of success. It's that Disney-esque opinion that you can whisk your ex-boyfriend, your ex-girlfriend, your ex-husband, your ex-wife, your ex, you can just whisk them off their feet almost by a grand gesture and make them think, whoa, I've made a big error of judgment here. I should not have ended that relationship because my ex has given me this wonderful present. They've shown me this wonderful gesture. I've made a big, huge error. Well, the reason why I think this is also bad advice, outdated advice you need to avoid, is let's think about this in a logical sense once more. Is this really going to cure the problem? Is the fact that you bought your ex a present going to resolve the reason why they've lost romantic emotional attraction for you? The only reason you were dumped is because your ex-dumper lost romantic emotional attraction. It hit the necessary low point and they've actioned the breakup. If you buy them a gift, it doesn't matter whether it is flowers, it doesn't matter if it's you paying for them to go on a holiday or vacation, it doesn't matter if you bought them a car, it doesn't matter if you've bought jewellery, a watch, whatever it may be. If you have bought your ex-dumper a gift, if you've shown them a grand gesture, is this really likely to have solved the problem as for why they lost romantic emotional attraction? Because if it hasn't solved that problem, then unfortunately you won't get your ex back. Unless they regrow romantic emotional attraction, this isn't going to be resolved. Now, could it paper over a crack? Could it very temporarily make them feel shocked that they want to now take you back? Well, if you were a complacent person, if you were a complacent partner, and your ex didn't feel that you ever showed any effort in the relationship, and then you did a grand gesture, maybe occasionally you might get a momentary second chance. But the likelihood is this won't last forevermore because it's just papering over the crack. It's not real. It's not real romantic emotional attraction which is being regrown. It's just a feeling of, okay, maybe they've shown me a little something here. Let's give this another chance. But that attraction level has already been drained. Once somebody's checked out, they've checked out. Once somebody has eaten all of their meal, they are no longer hungry. It doesn't matter if you say, hey, do you want to eat your favourite food? If they aren't hungry, they won't want to eat it. That is what's happened when somebody has ended a relationship. They've checked out. They've eaten. They're no longer hungry for you. They don't want what you are offering. So even though, incredibly occasionally, a grand gesture might seem to show some level of success, I very much doubt it will be long term. It will just be papering over the cracks. It will be something where people might get back together for a brief period of time, but it's not solving the root problem. It's not going to regrow that level of attraction, because it can't. You can't buy a gift and make somebody feel a high level of attraction for you. Maybe, for instance, you feel that your partner is a gold digger. They're with you for your money. Well, even if that was the case, which I really hope it isn't, but even if it was, and you then buy them a gift, do you really want to be using money game to buy love and affection? Don't you want somebody who's authentic? Don't you want somebody to be in a relationship with you because they truly love you, not just because you're sharing them with gifts? Okay, this is what you've got to be asking yourself. Do you really want somebody to be with you who is only going to be with you due to a grand gesture? Most of the time it won't work. Very occasionally it might briefly, but is this the right person for you? Either way. Now, if you would like advice and support about how to try and increase the chance of one day getting your ex back, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you can speak one-on-one about your unique specific situation. Go to my website www.dateme.tips for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. Talking about your feelings can also improve your mental health. It helps prevent the buildup of negative emotions, which can lead to stress, anxiety, depression, and even physical health issues. Speak your heart to free your mind. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast. If you feel that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description. And point number 3 is telling someone to contact you if they change their mind. Now, this piece of outdated advice is really important for me to speak about because it is very nuanced. And I have to be honest, this is advice which I used to give back in the day. You know, this is where my own thoughts and feelings have evolved on the subject matter. So you may have heard me say in podcasts, for instance, many years ago, that if you've been dumped and you're trying to give yourself a best chance of success, then at the end of a conversation, the end of a breakup conversation, you should say, hey, if you change your mind, contact me. Because that is how I originally felt back in the day a number of years ago, was the best chance of success. Now, don't get me wrong, doing that type of thing is not horrendous. It's not the worst thing you could do. However, we're trying to improve your chances by minimal, tiny percentage points here. Even if it's just a 0.5% chance to give you that extra boost, I want to give you that now. And my modern contemporary day approach has changed. I have seen from research there is a better way to increase your chance of success than saying to someone that's just dumped you, hey, if you change your mind, then please contact me. And the reason I've changed my opinion on this is because if you are saying to someone, hey, if you change your mind, contact me, you're basically saying, if you decide you want to get back in a relationship with me, contact me. Now that adds a lot of pressure. That's basically saying to your ex, don't contact me unless you are ready to reconnect. Is that realistic? Is it likely? Is it something where they are definitely going to think, yes, I want to get back together, I'm going to reach out to my dumpee? Well, in my opinion, my contemporary opinion, I think that is unlikely. I think a dumper will come to the conclusion that they miss their dumpee, that they are considering reconnecting, but they need to have a conversation. They need to meet up. They need to see how things go. They don't instantaneously want to reconnect most of the time. And hence, if you're telling them, if you change your mind, reach out to me, contact me, well, that adds pressure. That's basically saying, don't contact me unless you're 100% sure. And I just don't think that is going to give you a best chance of success. I do think, and I've heard it from dumpers themselves, say, because I didn't feel 100% convinced, I didn't reach out. Now that is a problem, because we want them to reach out. We want them to see whether there is a possibility of this growing. Most dumpers are not going to feel 100% convinced. Can you blame them? Would you, if you was in their position? Nobody knows for certain. You need to have conversations, you need to meet up. So we need to remove that pressure and not say to our ex, hey, if you change your mind, if you want to get back together, then just reach out to me. Because I think now there is a better way. So instead of saying that outdated phrase, I would now suggest that if you've been dumped, you say in your own words to your now ex, if you would like to chat sometime, then just let me know. Okay, because that is opening the door in a much simpler way. You're not saying contact me if you change your mind. You're just saying if you would like to chat, contact me. It's a subtle difference, but a big difference. It might improve your chance of success by that 0.5%. Now, some of you might be listening and think, well, doesn't this just open the door to them trying to friend zone me if they just want to chat? Well, there is a possibility that that could happen, but you need to give them an opportunity. So I would say, give them a chance to reach out to you and see how things go. I'm not saying be friend zoned. I'm not saying become a pen pal. I'm not saying become a text buddy. My advice would suggest that you don't fall into that trap. You have a conversation, you see how things develop, you potentially meet up, and if it's not going the way that you want, if you don't feel the right vibe, then you don't continue things. So yes, open the door, allow them to reach out to you for whatever reason, but if it's not going the way that you like, don't live that life. Don't become a text buddy, don't become a platonic friend, but give them that chance. See how things go. Yes, share a few texts. Yes, meet up. If it's not going the way you want, then you know you need to end this connection, because being somebody's platonic friend when you feel romantic feelings is not the way to go.